July 8th, 2025, will go down in Windsor Castle's storied history as a night of high diplomacy, rare emotion, and royal fashion grandeur. Beneath the vaulted ceilings of St. George's Hall, with golden candelabras flickering and French roses delicately perfuming the air, King Charles III stood before an illustrious assembly to welcome President Emmanuel Macron and First Lady Brigitte Macron. But amidst the polished diplomacy and Franco-British formality, the evening took an unexpectedly tender turn. In a speech laced with history and humor, warmth and wisdom, the monarch made a poignant tribute to his eldest son, Prince William, and daughter-in-law, Princess Catherine, one that felt both deeply personal and profoundly public. And all of it just hours after Buckingham Palace issued a rather concerning health update regarding His Majesty's own condition. With the grandeur of Windsor as his backdrop, Charles touched hearts across two nations. He began by nodding to the very stones beneath their feet. The castle in which we meet this evening was begun by my ancestor, and your sometime countryman, William, Duke of Normandy, in the year 1070. A clever historical wink, but then came the clincher. So it is perhaps rather appropriate, he continued, eyes twinkling behind his signature round spectacles, that my son, the Prince of Wales, who shares that earlier William's name, has made Windsor his home with his family, like so many of our predecessors. A brief sentence, a monumental sentiment. In just a few words, King Charles had not only saluted his son's decision to anchor his young family in Windsor, but symbolically woven their domestic life into the grand tapestry of royal continuity. That he did so in front of a foreign head of state, in a moment designed for diplomacy rather than sentiment, made it all the more affecting. For William and Catherine, Windsor isn't merely a postcode, it is a haven. The couple made the quiet move to Adelaide Cottage in 2022, leaving behind the bustle of Kensington Palace for a gentler pace of life that prioritizes proximity to school, green spaces, and, most crucially, each other. There, they raised Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis amid nature trails, creaky floorboards, and a refreshing lack of palace staff. This is not the Windsor of drawing rooms and protocol. This is the Windsor of muddy boots, pony rides, garden cricket, and a golden retriever named Orla darting through rose bushes. By invoking Windsor in his speech, King Charles wasn't merely referencing a residence. He was acknowledging a philosophy, a quiet, confident reimagining of modern royalty, and he was tipping his crown to the couple behind it. Adding to the gravity of the evening, Princess Catherine arrived at the banquet wearing more than just a Givenchy cape gown that would make even the Louvre's marble muses weep. Draped across her shoulder was the Royal Family Order of King Charles III, a pale blue ribbon affixed with the king's portrait, bestowed personally upon working female royals. This rare honor, first initiated by King George IV over 2 centuries ago, has historically been reserved for those who've demonstrated exceptional dedication to crown and country. For Catherine, the timing could not have been more poetic. Here was a woman who, despite her own health challenges earlier in the year, had returned to public life with unwavering grace. Who, in the face of global headlines and anxious speculation, had somehow managed to turn the conversation back to purpose, dignity, and the quiet art of presence. The family order pinned to her dress wasn't just jewelry, it was a message. A silent, shimmering thank you from a father-in-law and sovereign who has watched Catherine rise, not just in status, but in spirit. Of course, it wouldn't be a state banquet without a sartorial breakdown. Catherine's Givenchy gown, in its ethereal cream shade, was designed by Sarah Burton, the same visionary who created her 2011 wedding dress under the Alexander McQueen label. Burton, who joined Givenchy in late 2024, has brought with her a British sensibility and an eye for structured femininity. The gown's gentle cape silhouette evoked both angelic grace and quiet strength, a fitting metaphor for Catherine herself. In an almost mischievous twist, royal watchers noted subtle nods to both her own wedding gown and that of Meghan Markle, whose dress was designed by Givenchy during Claire Wakeheller's tenure. One wonders, was the reference intentional? A sartorial olive branch? A wink to unity within royal ranks? or simply a fashion coincidence born from a shared appreciation for clean lines and haute couture heritage. Whatever the case, Catherine wore it like a queen in waiting, poised, luminous, and unbothered by whispers. But even as the night sparkled with crystal stemware and diplomatic smiles, one shadow lingered. Earlier that day, Buckingham Palace confirmed that King Charles was suffering from a burst blood vessel in his eye, resulting in the visibly bloodshot appearance that alarmed viewers during the day's events. Palace officials were quick to clarify that the incident was entirely unrelated to his ongoing cancer treatment and that the king was otherwise well. Still, the sight of His Majesty addressing the banquet, his gaze tinged with red, yet his voice steady, stirred a collective breath among onlookers. It was a stark reminder of the humanity behind the crown, and perhaps it was that very vulnerability that lent his words about William and Catherine such resonance. When one feels their own mortality, it is only natural to look towards legacy, to sons, to daughters-in-law, to the next generation, and the world they are shaping. As for the French guests of honor, they were all smiles. President Macron, ever the diplomat, returned the king's warm welcome with a speech celebrating Anglo-French unity, shared history, and mutual admiration. Brigitte Macron, elegant in a sleek Dior column dress, reportedly shared a warm moment with Catherine before dinner, speaking in fluent French, of course, about motherhood, education, and the importance of children growing up out of the spotlight when possible. It's not every day that two first ladies, one of a republic, one of a monarchy, find common ground in a castle built by a conqueror. But such is the magic of modern diplomacy. In the end, it wasn't just a toast. It was a torch-passing moment disguised as a banquet remark. King Charles's tribute to William and Catherine was subtle, but layered. In praising their decision to raise their family in Windsor, he wasn't merely applauding real estate choices. He was recognizing a deeper instinct to preserve the monarchy's heart not in marble or gold leaf, but in bedtime stories, shared gardens, and school runs. Charles, who once waited longer than any heir in British history, seems to understand that true kingship isn't about reigning alone. It's about building the future with those who will one day rule. Within hours, social media was awash with praise. Charles's speech was the most human thing I've seen from a monarch in decades. One user wrote, "You could feel the pride and the love." Others commented on Catherine's radiant poise, her new sash, and the symbolism of her rising stature. Royal watchers, particularly those concerned about the king's health, were reassured to see him in strong form, physically present, emotionally lucid, and spiritually connected to both past and future. Some even speculated that the speech may have been a soft endorsement of William and Catherine as the monarchy's emotional epicenter going forward. And in a world often divided by headlines and cynicism, this moment of intergenerational affection cut through the noise like a church bell in the fog. King Charles's toast may have lasted just a few minutes, but it managed to bridge centuries. He spoke of castles, ancestors, and conquests, but anchored his heart in his family. In William, he sees not just a future king, but a son building his own path. In Catherine, he recognizes a woman whose grace has transcended titles. Together, they represent a monarchy both ancient and evolving. And on that summer night in Windsor, beneath the heraldic banners and velvet chairs, the king did something rare. He let his love for his family shine brighter than the crown. The result? A room full of diplomats misty-eyed, a nation quietly moved, and a royal legacy just a little more human.